All right, well, welcome to the start of Ten Oaks. This is a massive 80-inch tall, 26 inches wide, and 2 inches thick oak slab. And I've got to prepare that to make two signs out of. And it's not exactly flat and level. Of course, it's obviously too big to fit into my lunchbox planer. So you got to do a lot of prep work to do things sometimes. And in this case, I'm building me a router sled. Now what this is going to do, that other board is going to be screwed on to these. And these little cross braces right there are what the slab is going to lay on. And it's going to not be quite as tall as these rails are. And what I have standing right there is a sled that I've built that router will ride back and forth, and it'll go across the slab, and I'll get that slab level. And then when I do, I'll flip it over and I'll do the other side, and then I'll have two perfectly flat edges or faces on that side. So this is the start. I've got about 3 or 4 of these rails screwed into the stiles here. So I've got to finish screwing all the rest of them in. So when I come back, I'll have it all put together. Okay, well here's a picture of the router sled put together. And now you're seeing the cross sled for the router tractor to lay on, how it's actually going to work. So with this board being so heavy and massively big, I decided I thought I would just do it on the floor where it'd be safer to handle. But you know, sometimes the best laid plans of mice and men aren't what they really need to be. And it was right about this time where I realized this was not a very smart decision. So I decided to change my game plan up. And you can see how just a little bit I went in right there, because I started at the top, worked my way down. But it didn't take me long to realize that this was not a smart move to make. So I picked it up off the floor and moved it on top of some tables. So here we go. Well, this is one of the first passes I made after I got it up on the table. But you also may notice that on the router, I've actually removed the 2 large handles that were on there, and I'm grabbing the body of the router to drag it across. And the reason I did that is because it allowed me to position the 2 openings of the router base so that the chips could fly out away from the board and give me a little bit cleaner area to look at, and made it just a whole lot easier for me to function and work this sled back and forth. And I'm glad I did that. It takes a little bit of work to do it, but what I'm doing there is, you'll notice I'm clamping down the edges, and so it does take you a little time to walk back and forth to do it. But I clamp the edges down on the sled so that it stays nice and in line and in position and flat. And it's safer for me to handle it. That router, I don't have to worry about the router moving around. I've got complete control of it while I'm doing it. And the track is rock solid, so all I have to worry about is handling the router. So this was a safer way for me to do it. And I continued this method all the way down the full length of the board, and gives me a nice cleanup pass and allows me to do this all at one time. And I didn't have to make a second trip down this board. I was able to clean it up real nice with one pass. So here's a overhead view that you can see, and I'm looking forward to how this thing has turned out, because I'm really happy the way this thing is working for me. So now you can see I'm taking a fairly deep pass. It's about 1/8 of an inch, which is a lot for a 2-inch diameter flat bit that I'm running in that 1/2-inch shanked router. That's a lot of work going on right there, a lot of horsepower and a lot of effort to pull that through. because it is a 2-inch diameter bit, and I'm doing it by hand, I turned the RPMs down to almost as slow as this would go. Now that slows me down in how fast I can pull it, but it also gives me a safer operation, because when you have something 2-inch diameter spinning, you don't want that thing running at full RPM, because it's just opening up a can of worms that can cause a lot of injury to the operator. It can do some damage to the product you're working on, so it just made sense for me to run these RPMs a lot slower. Okay, what I'm doing now is I'm sanding the back of the board with my belt sander, and this is a 40 grit belt, and I'm going across the grain to help me bring down the flatness of the board a lot quicker. And even at that, with this belt sander, it was a long process. This was about 4.5 hours total time to sand the back of this board to get it down to where I wanted to go. I was expecting it to take that long, because that's about how long this belt sander has always taken me to work with things. Soon found out on the front side that there were better ways to do this, and I'll show you here momentarily. What I'm doing now is cleaning the belt with the belt dressing stick, and that removes the particles that are stuck inside the grits, and basically makes it almost like a brand new belt, so that you can aggressively go back to work and continue removing the material that you need to remove. Well, I think you can tell by the somewhat dusty atmosphere I'm working in that that's a pretty dirty process of all that sanding. I've had to clean the catch basin out, the little tub, several times, and also clean the belts like I do right here several times, so that I can continue the work in this process. But it's a very dirty process, and it's not the healthiest atmosphere to be in, and obviously, so that's why I'm wearing a respirator. Well, now I'm using my shop vacuum system to pick up all the sawdust that is built up on the board and clean it up and see what my board actually looks like when I get all the sawdust off of it. And unfortunately, I don't have any attachments that I can connect this directly to my belt sander, but as it turns out, that's going to be irrelevant, because on the other side of this board, as I'm cleaning it, my belt sander goes out on me. So here's the finished board from the back side. Okay, this will be the end of this video. There's too much going on, but I'll be back with another video where I have to turn this board over and start on the front side of it. So I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.